Hello, everybody, and welcome to another session of Live with David Lewis. I am your host, and I'm so glad to have you all here today. Let me just fix my camera here. Great. So today is Friday, August 20th. I hope everybody, as usual, is doing well and being safe. I've got a great topic for you today. Today, we're going to talk about selling cars and service. And I know we've done this in the past, but it's a great refresher. I've had a lot of people email me asking me to do this one again, and I've done a little bit more research. Actually had some of our training team in here for a meeting this morning to do some roundtable discussions, and we came up with some really, really good ideas. I want to share some of those ideas with you. But first, let me start with some statistics, some facts that we have written down. That we've done a little bit of research on. First of all, do you know that 10 to 20% of the current customers and an average dealership database could trade their vehicles in right now for a new one? I mean, that's a huge number. That's 1 out of 5 people are in a position where they could easily trade in and get a new car. Now, I know we're having trouble with inventory, and there's nothing we can do about that. We still have to move forward. And most of them can do so with the same payment they're paying now or less, or maybe walk away with some cash in their pocket. And that's a great incentive. So there's tremendous amounts of opportunities. Now, I'm going to talk about this a couple of times. If you sell a car out of service, and I'm going to give you some numbers here, and you're going to ask yourself or scratch your head. But there are dealerships out there that will sell 10 cars out of service and make $60,000, $70,000. And I know a lot of you are saying, well, that's impossible. Nobody's averaging $6,000, $7,000 a car. And I agree with you, they're not. But the beauty behind selling cars and service today is you get something in return. And that's very important in a day when we have inventory issues. So what is the worst customer you could sell a car to today? Well, the worst customer that could buy a car is someone that comes in and buys a brand new car, pays cash, and has no trade. Well, you get no finance reserve, and you have nothing in return for the car you just got rid of. So you're not replenishing anything in your inventory. The beauty is when you sell a car at a service, you get something back. You get a trade back. And if you're doing this properly, usually these trades are good vehicles that you can resell. So what happens is you now create a line of succession. So what happens is that one sale you made today could generate 3 more car deals over the next 7 to 10 days, because customer A comes in, service, you sell them a car, they have a trade. Well, that trade sells. There's customer B. Customer B buys the car that was traded in. They have a traded. Now we have vehicle C, and so on and so on. So you could sell 10 cars in service and generate $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. Those 10 cars you sold in service might, when it's all said and done, equal 20, 25 cars sold off of the original cars you sold in service. And that's important. So who are your best customers? Well, your best customers are your service customers. They're the easiest to sell. They have the most invested, and they already know you. They're at your dealership. So why are they your best customers? Well, they some of them bought their vehicles there before. They already use your service department. They're easy to follow up. They have all the pain points, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and they're easy to talk to. They're already there in your dealership. So what stops us from selling more cars in service? Well, one of the reasons is our salespeople are lazy. Let's face facts. We're lazy. I'm lazy. You're lazy. We're lazy. Now we say, no, I'm not lazy. I'm an aggressive go-getter. Sure. But you know what? If you could make less money and work more hours, you'd do the same. And so would I. That's a sign of laziness. Some of us are lazy. So why don't we prospect from service? Well, some of us are lazy. Okay. Some of us don't know how to. We don't know how. We use an old school mentality. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. We don't see the results, the payoff, the benefit of doing this type of job. Some of us think it's too much work. It's too hard. Hey, listen, if it's too hard for you, then do something that's easier. Driving a bus is easy. And a lot of us don't have a plan. We have no strategy. We don't know how to do the job. We don't know the steps, the processes, the procedures. So what does it take to be successful in selling cars and service? Well, there's 4 things. You got to have dedication. You got to be committed to wanting to do this. Number 2, you have to be persistent. You're going to get a lot of no's, and that's part of the process. You have to have a strong mindset. You have to have a mindset that's going to help you set goals and stay intact and on track of what you're going to do. And you have to have an action plan. You have to know what you're doing. You don't have a plan. How are you going to get to where you want to go? Now, when you prospect in service, there are a couple of things you must know every day. First of all, you got to know who's in your service department. You got to know who's there. You got to get the list. And we're going to talk about that. You got to know why they're there. Very important. Is it maintenance? Is it a repair? That becomes very important. We got to know which customers are the low-hanging fruit. Who are the people that have, 34,000 miles on their vehicle, their maintenance, their factory warranty, is about to expire, and they could potentially have a big repair that's covered under factory warranty. Maybe it's somebody low-hanging fruit that has a 5-year-old car, 6-year-old car, and they've got a $2,000 repair bill. We have to know who our orphan owners are. We have to know who's expiring on their factory warranty. We have to know who has a lease expiring or purchase term expiring. These are really important things to know. We have to know who's there for maintenance, and we have to know who's looking at a repair bill of $1,000 or higher. Why $1,000 or higher? Because studies have shown that people that have a $1,000 repair bill or higher are aggressively pursuing an alternative for not to have to pay for that. And that is very, very important. Let me change my page here on my notes. Now, when we talk about prospecting and service, it's all about grabbing people's attention. And what you have to understand is that these people did not come into service that day to buy a car. And the biggest problem we have with putting these plans into place in a dealership is we have to undo your retail mindset. It's very, very hard for some of us. You have to think differently. You have to act differently. You have to present differently. Now, some of it is all the same. Don't get me wrong. But some of it's very hard, and I'm going to tell you where it's going to get hard here in a few minutes. So you can't just walk back to service and strike up a conversation with somebody. That's not going to work. And then hopefully try to get them to walk outside and look at cars. They know what you're doing. They know why you're there. We talk all the time in DLA about lowering the customer's defensive posture. And, we had some trainers in this morning. We were doing some roundtable discussions. And one of ours was our fixed ops, one of our fixed ops trainers. And he said, look, at people that sit in the service lounge, they're already defensive. They're defensive being there in service because they don't know what the repair bill is going to be, or we're going to try to sell them more stuff. So these customers are defensive as well. So the first thing you have to do is you have to create a hook, a reason to get somebody's attention. Now, there are multiple ways to do this. I am going to give you one example, and there are other examples of doing this. One example is to hook them with a very low payment. Get their eyebrows to stand up. Get the hair on the back of their neck to go, huh? So what I would do is I have, Mrs. Jones's car is in for service. She's got a 3-year-old car with 35,000 miles on it. Great car, great condition. We'd love to have that in trade. So what I would do is I would go get her VIN number off her car or off the sheet or off my list that I get from service. And I would take that VIN number, I'd put it into kvb.com. I would calculate out an average trade value. And I'm just making up a number. Let's say it's $15,000. I would then reduce it by $2,000. And now I'd put her trade value at $13,000 just to be safe. Then what I would do is I'd go find a similar car, work out a 3-year lease, and I take the whole $13,000 as a cap reduction. Well, that's going to give me a very low payment, $150. There's my hook. And you got to keep in mind, you're going to be doing this all day long. So you don't want to waste time with people that aren't interested. So what I would do is I would very casually go up to Mrs. Smith and I'd say, Mrs. Smith, my name is David. I'm one of the representatives here at the dealership. I noticed your car was in for service, and I got to tell you, it's in great condition. We're in a tremendous need for used cars. Actually, the color you have is perfect. We are paying top dollar, and I didn't know if maybe you'd be interested in trading up to a newer model. I actually did some math, and I could put you in a brand new model for $150 on a 3-year lease. And if you'd like, I could give you some information. I'm just trying to hook her, to have her say, huh, what, really? Another way to do it is to, if you don't want to do the KBB approach, is just to walk out and again say, listen, you've got a car, I saw it, we're in dire needs of these cars, it's a great car, it's worth a lot of money. If I could lower your payment, would you be interested in possibly upgrading to a newer car with newer technology and newer accessories and newer features and benefits? However you want to do it, but you've got to have a hook. You've got to get a reason to make them stand up. Then if I saw that interest, I'd say, listen, while you're here, I'd love to spend a few minutes, show you some cars. But here's the key element you have to get out right away. And this is important. And it bucks conventional wisdom. You have to let Mrs. Smith know. By the way, Mrs. Smith, I do realize you had no intentions of buying a car today when you came into service. So please understand, I have no intentions of selling you a car today. That is not my objective. My objective is to get you interested, give you some information, let you take it home, think it over, digest it, and then if there's an interest, for you to follow back up with me. Once Mrs. Smith feels that you're going to try to ask her to buy that car today, you lost it, you're done. She will not spend any time with you. And that's where this starts to get hard, because you cannot let people think you are going to try to sell them a car today. And I'm going to go further on with that in a few minutes. So now you got Mrs. Smith interested. So now she says, sure, I'll spend a few minutes. Now you're going to take her out into your lot. And this is where you're going to get into your normal, typical DLA sales process. You're going to walk her out there and you're going to do an inventory walk. Point out the car maybe that you've done the numbers on or that you think is a good fit, but let her see all the cars similar to what she has. You're going to ask her if she wants to sit in one of the cars. If she attracts to one car, would like to sit in this car. You're going to do an internal presentation. Maybe you'll get lucky and say, hey, let's take a few minutes. Let's drive the car. Come back. You're going to do your walk around of the car. So there are some parts of your typical sales presentation you're going to do. When you're done with that, now it's time to bring her back in and present the numbers. Now, this is again where this is going to get difficult for most of you. You cannot, and I'm going to say it again, you cannot ask Mrs. Smith to buy that car today. You will lose because she is not intending on doing this. You will lose. You might get 1 out of 10,000 of them that'll say yes. But once you ask and she says no, you've lost your opportunity. It's done. And again, I'm telling you, most people, male, female, married, single, are not going to buy a car on the spot. Now, could it happen? Absolutely, it could happen. And I know a lot of managers out there are going to say, well, you got to at least ask. No, you don't. Because once you've asked, you've changed the whole dynamics of your presentation. And that person is going to leave there not even thinking about what you've done, other than that you try to sell them a car today. The job here is to get people interested, to get them into your pipeline, as many as possible throughout the day. This is a numbers game. So again, we had a meeting this morning and we came up with a great conclusion. Don't even bring Mrs. Smith to your desk. Let her go back into the lounge. Mrs. Smith, why don't you go have a seat back in the lounge? I'll be with you in less than 5 minutes. Let me get all that information for you. And I would go and create a worksheet. And I would bring it out to Mrs. Smith and I would present the vehicle to her. Mrs. Smith, here's the car that you looked at. It's a 3-year lease. Here's a cap reduction, da. Oh, by the way, do you have a payoff? Maybe I've got to adjust the payoff. If there was no payoff, just present it to her. And then you've got to say to her, now, why don't you take this home, think about it, and digest it? Would it be okay with you if I followed up in a day or two just to see where you stand on this thought process? And most people, if you've done a good job, are going to say, sure, you're polite. They're polite. There's no reason to say no to you. Now, if Mrs. Smith in conversation said, oh, my husband might like this or my husband might like that, say, bring it home, show it to your husband, discuss it with your husband. Don't say, do you want to call your husband? Do you want to see if your husband will come in right now? You're changing the dynamics of what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to build up a pipeline. And all you're doing is scaring her away. This is why it's failed so many times in the past. And once she says no to you and she's mad, it's over. It's over. So let her take that information home. Now, an hour or two after she leaves, you need to go out and make a quick video of the car. Take your cell phone out, do a little walk around a minute. Hi, Mrs. Smith. Thanks so much for coming in. I thought I'd give you a quick video of the car that we looked at, that we drove. It's da-da-da-da-da-da. And then I would post it on YouTube. I'd copy paste it and I'd text her the link. Mrs. Smith, thanks so much again for coming in. I created a quick little video here for you. I thought maybe you'd like to show it to Mr. Smith, or maybe you just want to digest it a little bit more, and give her the video. And then I would wait 24 hours and I would follow back up with Mrs. Smith. You've done everything you can do in this time in the process. Now, again, this is a numbers game, Now, let's go a different direction. Let's say that Mrs. Smith dropped her car off and now she's not in the showroom. She's not in the customer lounge. Process doesn't change that much. The only difference is I would call her on the phone. Mrs. Smith, this is David over at the dealership. I noticed you dropped your car for service. It's a very desirable used car. We're paying top dollar right now. Actually, your color is perfect. It's worth a lot of money. Don't know if you had any interest in maybe upgrading. I've actually got a car of similar value. I think the payment's even lower. When you stop in to pick up your car, if you have another minute, just come and get me. I will give you some information and you can take it home and think about it and digest it. And when she does come to you, go over it with her. If you think there's any interest, you might want to ask, hey, do you have another 5 minutes? We can just go look at it real quickly, try to get her into the process, send her home. If she says, no, I really don't have much time, send her home. Thank you for picking this up. I'll tell you what, give me about an hour. Let me shoot a little video of the car that I picked out for you. I will text it to you. It'll come as a YouTube video and see if it's something you think. And could I follow up with you in a day or two just to see where you stand? Again, most people are going to say yes. You've got to remember, this is a numbers game. This is all numbers. Now, let's dial down the numbers a little bit. Let's think about this for a second. Let's say in a good day, you can make 5 presentations. And I think most of you can. I think some of you can do a lot more depending on the volume you have going through. So just go with 5. Let's keep it simple. So that means you're making 25 presentations a week. That's 100 presentations a month. 100. How many do you think you're going to close? You think you could sell 8, 12, 16, 20 cars a month out of that 100? I would think 12 to 16 cars a month. But remember, it's more than 12 to 16 cars a month. Because if you sell 12 cars, you took in 12 trades. So there's another 12 cars you're going to sell. That's 24 cars off of your first base of 12. Now, some of those are going to have some trades in. So let's say there's 6. Now you're up to 30 cars off of that first 12 you sold. Grosses are strong now. Let's say you're averaging $4,000 front and back. That's a fantastic number now. You made $120,000 on your initial 12 cars that you sold out of service. But I'm going back to this again. You got to think about your process. You got to change the way you do this. If you bring a retail mentality into selling cars in service, you are going to fail. I'm 100%. You are going to fail. Now, there are 4 mistakes you need to avoid. Okay, and I have these written down. Mistake number 1 is you got to go in with the right mindset. If you go in with a defeatist attitude, you're not going to sell any cars. Okay, you're not. And if you go in with the attitude of, well, I didn't sell any cars in the first 3 to 5 days, I'm done. That's wrong, because it's going to take you 5 to 12 days to start getting people into your pipeline, doing some follow-up calls where you're going to start selling cars. Okay, mistake number 2 is no preparation. You didn't prepare yourself. You went out there and you winged it. And you know what? You're going to fail. Number 3 is you have a poor strategy. Again, you're using that old mentality of how we sell cars. You are going to fail. And number 4 is you have a lack of consistency. You just do it when you want to. You do it when you have a few minutes. This, to me, is a full-time position. I've always joked about this, but I'm dead serious. I will come and work in any dealership out there, and I will be the number 1 salesperson within 90 days, and I will never, ever, ever take an up. You always hear me joke about this. I don't do ups. I don't do push-ups, sit-ups, or pull-ups. I don't like the word up. It scares me. I would work in service. That is a gold mine. It is an absolute gold mine waiting to happen. So I'm starting to get some questions coming in. I want to start jumping on some of your questions. But think about what I've shared with you. You'll make the right decision. And to some of what I shared, you have to be tweaked in your environment, and might you have to do some steps a little bit differently? Absolutely. That's what it's all about. It's all about the customization. The one thing I would not customize, you got to have a hook. You got to get them into a presentation, and you cannot ask for that sale today. Now, let me go one more step. If at the end of the presentation, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Smith, whoever it is, says, you know, I really like this. I might do this. Well, then, of course, you're going to sell the car. Okay. I don't think it's going to happen very often, but if you get a very, very strong buying sign, and it would have to be a strong buying sign, like, you know, do you have financing available? Or let me see how much funds I have in my account. But other than that, that is far, far, far and few between. So hold on. Let me go over here to some of the questions that are coming in. Greg wants to know, what if I have a manager that doesn't want to be bothered with trade values or lease payments? What should I do? Oh, Greg, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't understand a manager that would not want to be. Do it on your own. Figure it out. Praise the car through KBB. Like I said, knock off $2,000. Come up with a way to work your own leases. Bring the deal. Today's day, you're selling cars for a list anyways. They're not going to turn you down. Just do it on your own. Okay, Robbie wants to know, do you have any, I'm assuming it says data. It says data as to what's the best time to prospect out of service. Yeah, all day long. I prospect out of service all day long. Morning, noon, afternoon, and if I have to, in the evening. There's no good time. There's no bad time. Are you going to have more customers sitting around in the service lounge in the morning? Yes. Doesn't mean it's a better time. Some of you might have more success calling people on the phone that are dropped their cars off versus people that are in the dealership. You got to experiment with that. All right. Toyota Center. How many hours per day do you recommend prospecting from service per day? All day. It's just me. All day. Okay. Now, me, I think ahead of the things. If I found out that I was selling cars on a regular basis, and you're going to hit a limit. You can only sell so many cars as a salesperson. And I don't know what that limit is for you. It could be 15, it could be 20, it could be 25. But if you want to go to the next level, me personally, I would hire somebody to make all of my presentations and demonstrations. I would set them up. I'd say, here, so-and-so is going to take you out, show you the car. When you come back, let me give you the figures. Then you can go home and think about it. All right, Chevy conference room. Why should I go through all the effort and then not try to close them right away, same day? Okay. Because you're not going to close them. I mean, ask yourselves this. And I know there's always somebody out there that's going to say, I would do it. How many of you would go to a car dealership to get an oil change and then drive home in a $35,000 car without speaking to your significant other? Yeah, again, I know there's going to be someone out there that's going to say, oh, I would. You don't do those things. People don't do that. They had no intentions of buying a car when they came to the dealership. It's zero. Now, when they come back, if you've done a great job and now Mrs. Smith calls you up or you call her up and she says, you know what, I'd like to bring my husband in and show him the car. All bets are off. Go for the sale. Close the deal. They've now come back to you. They're expecting a presentation. All right, a couple more. Carter the car guy. Wouldn't it be better to find out what a payoff is first so we can show them their actual payment? No. And the reason being is it's too much work. I want to know right away if somebody has an interest. If they don't have an interest, I'm moving on to the next person. There's too many people waiting for me. Some of you are going to run into a problem. You can't get to everybody. So I don't know if I want to do too much legwork. The only preparation I want to do is I want to make sure that it is someone that qualifies. Why are they in the service? How many miles are on their car? How old is their car? I don't care what their payoff is right now. If I can get them inspired, things are going to happen. Now, am I going to get some people inspired that owe too much on their trade? Yeah, it's possible. I mean, that's a possibility. Look at how many times we have people that are buried in their trades and we take them out of their trades and put them in new cars. All right, Blaine wants to know, do you recommend I get a full week schedule of service appointments or just day by day? Blaine, that's a personal opinion. I mean, I don't think it hurts to get the whole week. I'm a kind of day by day person. I kind of like to get to the dealership early or maybe the night before, get a printout of all the appointments that come in during the day. If I find that I'm running out of opportunities, I might go into the service department at 2:00 and see if anybody's come in, drop their car off that wasn't on the schedule. Maybe if we have a quick lube, I'll start getting some cars off the quick lube. Quick lube is a little bit of a unique situation. I might be calling these people more than trying to stop them in the quick lube lane. They're in quick lube because they want to get in, they want to get out. So I might call them after the fact and see if I can spark some interest for them to come in or maybe email them some information on the vehicle. All right, let's do one more. Dodge salesperson. Do you endorse just hanging out in service and trying to strike up a conversation on the fly? Me? No, that's not my personality. Now, I know I'm very outgoing and very aggressive. I don't want to waste time trying to strike up a conversation with someone. I'm not trying to get a date, okay? I'm trying to find out real quickly, do you have an interest in maybe upgrading your car? That's why I cut to the chase. Mrs. Smith, my name is David. I noticed your car was in service. We're in a dire need of pre-owned cars, and your car is absolutely perfect. And it's only got 34,000 miles on it, and it's worth a lot of money. I'm not sure if you're interested or not, but if you are, I might be able to lower your monthly payment, maybe put some cash back in your pocket and put you in a new car. Please keep in mind, I am not going to try to sell you a car today. That is not my intention because I know you had no intention of buying a car today. But if you had a few minutes, I'd love to spend a few minutes with you, show you some of the cars we have, give you some information, let you go home and think about it and digest it. Does that interest you? She says, no, I don't think I'd be interested. Great. Thanks for taking a second to listen to me. If I can help you with anything else, please let me know. And I'd go on to the next one. I don't want to waste time striking up conversations to get the negativity. So there are a few more questions in here. We're going to run out of time. I always will answer all your questions via email. I really hope I'm making you think about this. And folks, I know that we're selling every car we got coming in. I get it. For me right now, if I was a dealer, a GM, a sales manager, the biggest thing that I like about selling cars out of service is I get a car back in return. I really do. It does me no good to sell a car and not get a car in return. It hurts my inventory. Used cars are hard to get. We're paying through the nose for used cars. Everyone's scrambling for cars. It's almost like saying, I don't want to sell a car unless I get a car in return. I know we don't do that. We have to sell a car. But to me, now's the time to get this up and running, because once you get this working smoothly, this whole thing with inventory is going to break. This is not a forever deal. We all know that. So hopefully shortly, we're going to start getting a flood of inventory. And keep something in mind. Somebody else brought this up in this morning's meeting. We got another problem coming around, and that is we got a lot of 2021 cars sitting on lots that don't have these chips in them. Once the chip comes, they're going to start coming. And so are the 2022 models. So we're going to need a way to get rid of these 2021 vehicles. And there's no better way than by doing that through the service department. So with that said, I hope you all are being safe. I want to wish you all the best. Next week, about 2 weeks out, my topic is going to be on control. Who's in control? You are the customer. I got a lot of great ideas for that. So finish strong. Have a great Labor Day holiday weekend coming up. I'll see you in 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll have another session. Good luck, everybody. Bye-bye.